First time as a radio ship. She's alone.
Kent Police have questioned the 3 crew members. They've now been released.
They were short of water and food. Last night, their last stock of generator fuel was washed overboard, leaving them without heating. More importantly, they couldn't power lights to warn off other vessels. It was decided to abandon the converted trawler for the first time in 8 years. The seas were too rough, even for a lifeboat. Station manager Peter Moore says he can't praise the RAF highly enough.
I understand the ship is rolling very badly, and it can roll through an arc of 60 degrees when the weather's bad. And since there is so much metal up in the sky above the ship, aerial towers and aerial wire and rigging, yes, it was a very skilled job.
A salvage vessel is now on its way from Holland to make the ship safe. But with the vessel unprotected, the crew will also dismantle the onboard transmitter.
It would seem the government are so determined to get rid of Caroline, they're actually contemplating a change to international law to be able to do it. So our plan, of course, is not to transmit any longer. We're going to keep the ship at sea while we consider our legal position.
Mr. Moore hopes the situation will be sorted out before the end of the month. In the meantime, he says spirits among the broadcasters is still high. He's already had several volunteers wanting to go back on board.
The time is now 1 o'clock. This is Andy Jones at BBC Radio Kent. The latest news headlines.
A rescue boat is due to leave Ramsgate Harbour about now to try to salvage the stranded pirate radio ship Radio Caroline. As Lawrence MacDonald reports, unless power can be restored on board the converted trawler, she'll continue to be a danger to shipping off the Kent coast.
The 3-man crew on board the Ross Revenge were airlifted to safety last night as the vessel was battered by severe gales. The Coast Guard were called after the generator failed, and the 2 men and a woman found themselves without light, heat or any food. A helicopter from RAF Manston brought them back to dry land just after midnight, and from there the crew were taken to Ramsgate Police Station. They were then released without charges. A spokesman for the Department of Trade and Industry said since no one's broadcast from the ship for several months, they committed no offence. An engineer is hoping to restore power to the ship and get the lights back on as soon as possible, so it's at least visible to other traffic in the area.
Keepers winched to safety from the deck of the pirate ship Radio Caroline say they'd be happy to go back. They were forced to abandon the Ross Revenge by a power failure in heavy seas. The transmitter for the 26-year-old illegal station is now being dismantled. The station manager, Peter Moore, says he's had plenty of volunteers willing to go back on board.
As an incident in the history of Caroline, it's not all that major. It might be a bit dramatic, but compared to some of the other things that Caroline's endured, it's very minor, so it's just a small setback.
The transmitter from the pirate radio ship the Ross Revenge is being dismantled. The Radio Caroline trawler, anchored 50 miles off North Foreland, is unmanned following the dramatic rescue of 3 crew members. The station's been transmitting for 26 years, but manager Peter Moore decided against a confrontation with the Department of Trade and Industry at this stage.
DTI are very determined to silence Caroline, and we fear that they may shoot first and ask questions later, which obviously isn't very satisfactory from our point of view. So we don't wish to give them any reason to act while we investigate our legal position.
Just me and Caroline, Caroline.
Well, another sad day in the history of the old radio station, dear old Radio Caroline. Soft spot. All broadcasters have got a soft spot for it, particularly those that worked for it. You never actually forget where it all started, and just think that we wouldn't have any of the radio setup that we have today if it wasn't for those guys out there. Not only myself, but a lot of others who've been out there as well, before me and since. Certainly the news looks bad today, but you can't count them out. People are saying it's the end. They have a lot of fighting spirit, the people behind that organisation. And who's to say they won't be back? Give them a licence, bring them on shore, come on.